Most military aircraft are hard to fly because they're complex. Banks of computers, fly-by-wire systems, autopilots babysitting every control input. This one's hard to fly because it isn't any of those things. No autopilot, no fly-by-wire, no digital safety net. Just you, some rotor blades, and physics having a very frank conversation about your life choices. Meet the MH-6 Little Bird, the unforgiving whisper of Black Ops aviation. Now I want to get something straight. When we're talking about the most difficult military aircraft to fly, we're pretty much talking about helicopters by default. Fixed-wing aircraft want to fly, it's what they're designed to do. Helicopters, on the other hand, are essentially controlled crashes that we've convinced to hover through sheer force of will and engineering stubbornness. Aliens probably can't believe their big black eyes when they watch humans climb into these things. But even among helicopters, some are more aggressively trying to kill you than others. The Little Bird comes in two flavors of anxiety. First, you've got the MH-6, the light assault and insertion variant. This is the one where Special Forces operators literally ride on the outside skids like they're catching the world's most expensive and dangerous Uber. Nothing says elite military operation quite like strapping yourself to the landing gear of an aircraft that's about as stable as a caffeinated hummingbird. Then there's the AH-6, the light attack version, bristling with miniguns, rockets, and sometimes hellfires. Because apparently someone looked at this tiny, twitchy helicopter and thought, you know what this needs? More ways to accidentally destroy things. The Little Bird hits max speeds of around 150 knots with cruising speeds around 110 knots. Service ceiling may go up to Class A airspace, but most of its time is spent much closer to Earth. It has an endurance of anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 hours and range of around 250 miles. These numbers are rough averages, while precise figures depend on environmental conditions and weight carried for the mission. Both variants are operated exclusively by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the Night Stalkers. These are the guys who get called when the mission brief starts with impossible and ends with don't get caught. They specialize in precision nighttime raids, quick extractions, and generally making other pilots question their career choices. The Little Bird didn't start life as some cutting-edge military design. It's descended from the Hughes OH-6 Cayuse, a Vietnam-era scout helicopter, which later evolved into the MD-500 Defender and MD-530F. Basically, it's a civilian helicopter that went through military boot camp and came out the other side significantly more dangerous, but not necessarily more stable. This civilian heritage was actually a genius-level procurement strategy. Instead of spending a decade and several $billion developing something from scratch, the military took a proven platform and said, let's see what happens if we add weapons and take away everything that makes flying easy. The result is modular, upgradable, and relatively cheap, at least by military standards. You can bolt on weapons, sensors, and mission packages like you're customizing a very expensive and potentially lethal Hot Wheels car. It's the helicopter equivalent of buying a Honda Civic and turning it into a Formula One race car, except the racetrack is a war zone, and second place means everyone dies. This is where things get spicy. Most modern military helicopters are loaded with assistance systems, fly-by-wire computers that smooth out your inputs, stability augmentation systems that keep you from accidentally inverting yourself, autopilots that can hold a hover while you figure out what went wrong with your life. These systems do this through the use of gyros and sensors that monitor flight conditions and aircraft attitude, feeding that data to flight computers that interpret pilot inputs and subtly adjust control surfaces with limited authority via the hydraulic servo actuators. The Little Bird has hydraulics, the minimal ones, and that's about it. No fly-by-wire, no stability augmentation system, no autopilot. Every hover, every turn, every terrifying skid landing on a rooftop is fully mechanical and entirely dependent on the pilot not screwing up. It's like the difference between driving a modern car with traction control, anti-lock brakes, and lane keeping assist versus driving a 1960s muscle car with no power steering on an ice rink in the dark while people shoot at you. The Little Bird is deliberately stripped back to be acrobatic and inconspicuous. It's small, it's nimble, and it will absolutely punish you for every tiny mistake because there's nothing between your hands and the laws of physics except some very honest hydraulics and your hopefully adequate skill level. Let's break down exactly why flying this thing feels like doing algebra while juggling a few hamsters in a crowded bouncy house. First, those purely mechanical controls. When you move the stick, the helicopter moves. There's no computer asking, are you sure you wanted to do that? Or smoothing out your inputs. You fly it with your brain, your muscles, and your increasingly questionable life choices. Every correction you make is exactly the correction the aircraft makes, for better or worse. Second, it's quite twitchy. The little bird is highly sensitive to control inputs. Think of it as the helicopter equivalent of an espresso-fueled chihuahua. Touch the controls too aggressively and you'll overcorrect yourself into a very expensive and embarrassing accident. Too gentle and you'll find yourself drifting into buildings, other aircraft, or the ground, none of which are particularly forgiving of poor helicopter control. This is especially true of precision hovering. Hovering over rooftops, ship decks, cliff tops, often under night vision goggles, placing operators exactly where they need to be. It can be a game of inches. Imagine parallel parking a shopping cart while blindfolded, except the shopping cart weighs several tons, has spinning blades of death, and everyone's life depends on you not bumping the curb. Third, and probably most important, is its mission profile. Both the MH6 and AH6 are designed for operational extremes: night missions, urban raids, mountain operations, ship deck landings in rough seas, all in support of highly trained Tier 1 and Tier 2 operators. Think about it this way: if the role of aviation in the Army is to support the ground force, then wouldn't it take the most elite aviators to support the most elite ground force and its mission? Little birds are designed to be utilized in surgical operations, which require the pilots to be absolutely surgical on the controls. There's zero margin for error when the MH6 operates in tight spaces. When they've got Navy SEALs sitting on the skids, they're operating in close proximity to obstacles, buildings, other aircraft, and generally everything that can turn a helicopter into modern art. The AH6 variant, strapped with enough firepower to turn your house into dust, may be providing Green Berets with close air support, and the pilots are expected to eliminate bad guys who may be sharing apartment space with friendlies. No room for mistakes, and no help from a flight computer. As one pilot put it, it's not hard because it's broken. It's hard because it's honest. Every inch you move the controls, it moves right back. No questions, no hesitation, no forgiveness. The little bird has earned its reputation through decades of missions that read like rejected action movie scripts, except they actually happened. Mogadishu, 1993. The Battle of Mogadishu immortalized in Blackhawk Down. While the Blackhawks were getting shot down and creating an international incident, MH6 little birds were threading the needle, inserting Delta Force operators onto rooftops in the middle of a hostile city. Picture landing a helicopter on a roof while people shoot at you from every direction, then doing it again and again, because that's what the mission requires. Grenada, 1983. Operation Urgent Fury saw 160th Little Birds supporting Rangers and Delta Force in more rooftop operations. Apparently, the military has a thing for rooftop insertions, and the Little Bird is the go-to aircraft for turning impossible rooftop landings into merely terrifying ones. Operation Prime Chance, 1987 to 88. Seabat teams used MH6 and AH6 helicopters for shipboard operations in the Persian Gulf, targeting Iranian mine layers. Because landing a twitchy helicopter on a moving ship wasn't challenging enough, they decided to do it while hunting enemy vessels in contested waters. Panama, 1989. Operation Just Cause featured little birds leading rooftop insertions, beacon deployments, and direct action missions. By this point, you'd think they would have figured out a way to do special operations without involving rooftops, but apparently the little bird had cornered the market on landing helicopters in places helicopters shouldn't land. And of course, there's Blackwater. While technically utilizing the civilian variant MD-530s, the private military company operated little birds in Iraq in support of security operations, zipping around Baghdad, performing convoy overwatch, armed escorts, and, you guessed it, rooftop insertions. The pilots were mostly former Night Stalkers. In October of 2007, Polish Ambassador Edward Pietrzyk's convoy was ambushed, and his vehicle burned out in Baghdad. As bombs dropped and gunfire raked the street, Blackwater's little bird swooped in, dodging posts and power lines, landed in the chaos, and evacuated the ambassador to the green zone. And that's just the unclassified stuff. The little bird has been quietly supporting counterterrorism operations, mountain extractions, and surveillance missions worldwide for decades. Every time you hear about a surgical strike or a precision raid, there's a decent chance a little bird pilot somewhere is having stress dreams about rooftop approaches and skid landings. The little bird is designed exclusively for elite pilots because there literally isn't room for mediocre performance. This isn't an aircraft you can learn to fly adequately. You either master it completely or you wash out, hopefully before you turn yourself and your passengers into a crater. It's loved for its responsiveness and raw feel. There's something addictive about flying an aircraft that responds instantly to every input, where you can feel exactly what the machine is doing at all times. But it's also feared for its demanding demanding workload and complete lack of safety nets. Now, before the Blackhawk pilots start writing angry letters, this isn't about bashing other helicopters. The UH-60 Blackhawk is the workhorse of military aviation, reliable, versatile, and powerful enough to haul troops, supplies, and occasionally entire small wars from point A to point B. But it comes with stability, augmentation systems, autopilots, and fly-by-wire assistance specifically designed to make the pilot's job manageable. The Blackhawk is built for reliability and utility. It's designed to carry heavy loads in terrible conditions, to get shot at and keep flying, to be the dependable taxi service of military operations. It's got enough automated systems to help smooth out the rough edges of helicopter flight, making it possible for pilots to focus on the mission instead of constantly fighting the aircraft. Not to mention, it can be quite handy for a unit to be able to file an IFR flight plan and have a stable aircraft to punch into the clouds. The Little Bird stands apart because it's built for precision and stealth, not utility hauling. It's analog, immediate, and completely dependent on pilot skill. The design philosophy is simple: skill over safety nets, precision over protection, capability over computerized assistance. The MH-6 and AH-6 Little Birds aren't just hard to fly. They define what difficult means in military aviation. They represent pure, unfiltered skill requirements in every hover, every approach, every mission. No computers to smooth out your mistakes, no autopilot to catch you when you screw up, no stability systems to compensate for inadequate technique. The Little Bird proves that sometimes the most advanced technology is no technology at all, just exceptional engineering, exceptional training, and exceptional pilots who've learned that the only safety net they can rely on is their own skill. Think there's an even harder aircraft out there? Drop it in the comments. Bonus points if it doesn't have a hover button and actively tries to kill its pilots. Subscribe to Steel Mallard for more content about things you'll need to know before World War III. See you in the next one.